Okay, hi Rachel.
Hello.
Hi. Right, nice to see you again, Rachel. So, you came to me back in October and you had, I think it was 9 sessions. So, you started off having weekly sessions, didn't you? And then I think the last couple of weeks you cut down to fortnightly sessions, and then you were ready to fly. So, to start with, can you just start off by explaining why you chose to have solution-focused hypnotherapy?
I'd been through a pretty stressful time. My partner had died, my son had been attacked. It was all a bit traumatic for us. I was finding that I wasn't sleeping properly and I felt like I was totally out of control. Somebody suggested trying hypnotherapy, which I was a bit uncertain of to start with, because I was like thinking, oh, I don't know whether that would be for me, but was willing to give anything a try. So contacted you and we set off.
Yeah, okay. So you mentioned that you hadn't been sleeping properly. You'd had obviously a lot of unfortunate traumatic events that had happened prior to having the hypnotherapy. What other symptoms were you experiencing at the time that you came?
When I was sleeping, I was having very vivid dreams, which were horrific. They were horrible. I was very, very low mood-wise. It was just horrible. I just didn't feel like myself. I was just hung up on everything. So I think it was just horrible.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So you mentioned as well that you didn't really know much about hypnotherapy, didn't know what to expect. So what had you heard about hypnotherapy and what perception of it did you have before you came?
Well, I hadn't really heard a lot about it. I suppose I'd seen what everybody else has seen on the television, and putting people into trances and doing silly things and things like that. But I was willing to give it a go, and it was like, well, if I go in the first time, I don't like it, then I don't need to go back. But it was brilliant.
Good, glad to hear it. So next question was going to be, what was it actually like in comparison to what you thought it was going to be like?
It was as far from what I thought it was going to be as you could possibly get. It's just like really relaxing. And it was really, really strange, because after the chatting bit, when we did the trance, and I always called it like the story part of it, you just felt like you were there but you weren't there, and like you could hear what you were saying, but all these things are going on in your head, but it wasn't like, you were still relaxed, and it wasn't traumatic, and they were all your thoughts were just like stacking nicely rather than buzzing around all over the place. It was just really weird, and it's really hard to describe, but it was just like a calming sensation, and it was just like as if everything was getting in order. It is hard to describe, but it felt like when we'd finished, it was just like as if I felt much lighter, as if I wasn't weighed down by all these worries anymore.
Oh, good. So there's no need to address anything that happened in the past. We don't do that in this type of hypnotherapy. So that was the reason why you felt lighter and you didn't have all those thoughts going around in your head, because we'd done our stress bucket emptying in the first half of the session. So again, you mentioned that we did the talking part of therapy at the beginning, and then we have the trance, which is the relaxation at the end of the session. So what was your favourite part of the sessions and why? Other than I know you touched on that you really enjoyed the trance at the end.
Yeah, I did enjoy the trance because of how relaxed I felt. The bit that I always struggled with was saying what would need to happen to make me feel differently the next day. I really struggled with that. And it was actually the first bit when we had to list of all the good things that had happened. And to start with, I found that really difficult, because you don't necessarily always think of the good things what are going on. I think bad things always stick in your head longer than good things. But when you actually start to think about it, so many good things happen, which you just take for granted, really. You don't think of them as a good thing. So it made me appreciate all those little things, like even like waking up and getting out of bed in the morning, which sounds silly, but actually we're also lucky because that's what we can do every day. So yeah, it was all that, appreciating the little things and
Yeah,
thinking about them.
exactly. And like you say, people don't realise, do they, how much good there actually is in the day, because our brains are so trained to focus on the negative and bring us back
Yeah, and you
down.
kind of get weighed down by all that heaviness of all the negative things, and actually don't celebrate all the little positives, which once you start to do that, then the negative doesn't seem as much anymore. You balance out.
Yeah, definitely. So you said you found that hard at first, which, yeah, being honest, if your brain's not used to thinking like that, lots of people do find it quite hard the first couple of sessions to get into that way of thinking. So when did you feel like you first started to see small amounts of progress and small results? How many sessions would you say that it took you to really start seeing small
I would think it
changes?
was like between 3 and 4. I think I started to sleep better, and I didn't wake up, and if I did wake up I could get back off to sleep. And I think appreciating all the little things, I was much more conscious of the positives in my life rather than the negatives. So it just lessened the burden completely. So everything started to slot back in place, and I saw glimpses of the old me, or the person who I wanted to be again, starting to reappear.
Good. And how did you know? I'm just laughing because this question is probably very much like a question that I used to ask you, but how did you know that you were starting to see small changes? So you said that you was noticing that you were sleeping better. What else showed you that you were starting to see results?
Yeah, I didn't feel so out of control. And I hadn't really realised that I felt out of control until I started to feel more in control. And it wasn't like I wasn't able to do things, because I was still functioning, or I was physically functioning. Mentally, I'm not sure I was functioning and doing, but I think everything just became a little easier. So I wasn't getting as tired because I wasn't having to concentrate on what I was doing, because I could focus on it much easier. It's until I think it was just, it's really hard to describe, but when it's happening to you, it seems like the most natural thing to happen.
Yeah. Okay, great. So what techniques and coping mechanisms did you take from the sessions which helped you to move forward?
Lists. I started off writing a list of all the like positive things that were happening, and I now write lists for everything. I have lists. I check off my list when I've done it. If I don't manage to get everything off my list, I write a new list for the next day and transfer them over. If I do things which aren't on my list, I add them to it and then tick them off. And it's that sense of achievement and, yeah, just being in control, I think. And I'm not a controlling person, but it's just being aware of the path that you're going on and carrying on going along the path rather than going backwards.
Yeah, exactly. And you only had, like we said, you had 9 sessions, which is, normally it's between 6 and 12 sessions that people do tend to have. So although you only had those 9, you said that you've taken things forward from the sessions that have enabled you to carry on your own and not be reliant on seeing me every week, which is brilliant. Good, fab. So what impact would you say that it's had on your life as a whole then? So we've talked briefly about, you started to see little changes with the sleep and feeling more in control. Overall, where you are now, what impact has it had on you?
I'm much more smiley. Well, I feel smiley, much more smiley than I was. I think my mum noticed as well. She noticed that I don't get anxious about things, which I hadn't. It's a well-known fact in my family that if we have everybody around for dinner, I tend to lose it in the kitchen at some point because somebody's in the way. But I don't do that anymore, which I just feel calmer.
Oh, the video's gone. That's all right, you're back.
Am I back?
Yeah.
Right, it's because my battery was going. I just feel calmer about everything, and just like, yeah, I mean, it's had an amazing effect on me. I wouldn't ever have believed it, that it could. I just feel completely differently, and that doesn't take away from everything that's happened in the past. And obviously I've still got the sadness with losing my partner, but it's just there, and it doesn't affect my, I don't know how to describe the me. I'm still the person that I was, carrying this along with me, but it's not dragging me down.
Yeah, of course. Brilliant. So nice to hear. So what did you see any, so there's the emotional and psychological effects that it had on you in the long run and has impacted on. Did you see any physical effects?
Yeah. I'm healthier than I was.
How are you healthier?
I've lost some weight. I'm diabetic, and my blood sugar results are much better than they were. I don't get ill as much, which I'm not sure if that's got anything to do with it or not, but I think I'm just happier and more relaxed and less anxious, and I think that helps you not pick up every bug.
Yeah, definitely, because
you're really low.
Your psychological, everything psychological has an impact on your immune system. So because we emptied your stress bucket and got you thinking positively, then that has an impact. You know, if you're thinking negatively, then you're more in that primitive,
you feel negative, yeah,
and you're more likely to be susceptible to catching things. You're obviously, if you're stressed, it's a known fact that your blood pressure is going to be higher anyway. So your blood pressure, I think you said your diabetes blood levels are lower. Good. And you've lost a bit of weight because you've had more focus, you haven't had that stress, which has then turned you to the food, and you're making healthier choices. I remember actually you talked quite a lot in the last few sessions about making healthier choices, and that you'd been cooking and ordering healthier meals. So once you had cleared everything, you were able to get that focus, which enabled you to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you think that it's helped you through the current situation, so through the pandemic? Do you think it's had an impact on how you've been able to cope through this?
I think so. As I say, I'm much calmer and I'm not anxious. So although this is worrying, I've just like taken it a step at a time and done what I'm supposed to be doing, and tried not to get like bogged down with the tragedy of it all. It's kind of it, you know, there's not anything we can do about it, so we just have to go along the curve or whatever and come out the other end.
Good. So you're focusing on things that are in your control rather than things that are out of your control.
Yeah, I've been I'm finding things to do which keep me calm, well, you know, which I find calming, like knitting, reading, gardening. Who would have thought it? But yeah, so having lots of time outside has been good as well.
Yeah, brilliant, good. So what would you say to anybody that was thinking about having solution-focused hypnotherapy? What would you say to them? What would your advice be?
Definitely try it. You've got nothing to lose. And you've got to go and see what it's all about, really. Don't believe everything, you know, all the silly things you hear, because it's nothing like that. And it just is it's brilliant. It's amazing.
Oh, good. Thank you so much. And it's been great to talk to you and hear everything back again and see how you're getting on now. And I'm sure everyone else will enjoy hearing your story as well. So thank you so much for sharing that.